Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. For those of you new here, I'm Heath, and today we are diving deep into one of dance music's most beloved eras, building a 90s progressive house track completely from scratch here in Ableton Live. Think some of those lush pads driving bass lines and those kind of epic breakdowns that defined a generation. So without further ado, let's have a little bit of a sneak preview of what we're building today, and then we can get stuck straight in. So this is a little preview of what we're aiming to create today. All right, so hopefully that gets your taste buds and appetite wet for sticking around today and watching this track unfold from scratch. That's a demonstration of the kind of what we're aiming to create in today's video. So as the video goes on, I'll be sharing every decision, every happy accident, and yes, every creative dead end along the way. That's how it goes in real life and real production. So grab a coffee, jump in the chat, and let's create some magic together. It's going to be a fun one, and let's get started. Quick one, just looking at the comments as well. Great to have Patrick already on board here from Wisconsin in the USA. Hi Patrick, I hope you're doing really well. If you are here today in the stream with me, do feel free to say hello. Let us know where you're tuned in listening from. And of course, drop any questions you have in the chat about Progressive House, Ableton Live, electronic music. Be lovely to hear from you, and I'll do my best to see if I can help you with anything that you would like to ask about. So let's start with a fresh, clean slate and get stuck in. If you are a fan of Progressive House and you're around in the 90s, or even if you weren't and you were you listened back to your genres and times of the past, think about the music that sort of cut the careers of DJs like Sasha and Digweed and people like that are still going strong in the scene, Hernan Cataneo, people that have been playing for a long time, and they sort of began with this 90s kind of progressive house sound. We're also going to keep things a little bit limited as well in a way, because in those times we obviously didn't have all of the different sort of synths and plugins and things that we have these days. So we're going to keep it nice and simple, and not our caps to that period of time. Lenny, wish I could watch, but it's late in Melbourne. It is indeed late, Lenny, but obviously you can catch it on replay if you miss something. So I just, while I was talking, put the BPM up to 130 there. Let's start with a nice kind of 909 kick drum here. I think I can remember where there are some good ones. Let's flick through here. Quite like this one. It's got a little bit of punch in here. So let's maybe start with that. Just get a little bit of a 4 on the floor pattern rolling. Then we're going to sort of build around that. So nice and easy to start with. Let's have a little ghost note in here as well. Perfect. Let's just check out a couple of these other ones as well. I think I'll settle on the one I had, but just checking. Yeah, let's go with that one. Let's maybe give it a little bit of filter here from Ableton, a bit of drive. Bring out a bit of character there. All right, great. Nice and easy. That's simple stuff. So where the magic's going to start is where we're going to build in our first little elements to talk to that kick. Also a bass line. We're going to do all that. We're going to be using Ableton Live native stock devices as well as we go. So on this track here, I'm going to use an operator. And I'm going to look to sort of come up with a little bit of a sequence type idea straight off the bat. So let's come in here and let's plug in a note. We don't have a key or a scale or anything like that just yet, but let's get a note rolling and then we could sort of figure it out from there. So let's have something here. And one thing to pay attention to a little bit here is it's going to be a bit sound designy straight off the bat, because again, just to point out, this is a sort of simple genre. So we're not building like huge chord progressions here or harmonic layers, you know, lots of melodies, counter melodies, harmonies, chords. We're kind of like this is back to the 90s. There was a bit of sampling going on. There was simple drum machines, lots of synths that people were using the presets of. The Junos, the Roland Junos are really popular around this time. So we're going to keep it simple as well. We're going to use like drift and operate and analog, the synths that are built into Ableton stock devices, that we can really make them sound really good. So first technique I'm going to do here is with the operator. I'm going to, with the oscillator A here, I'm going to turn it to fixed frequency. And I'm going to use that to build sort of something a little bit interesting in terms of this kind of sequence note thing that we're going to have here. And what I'm going to do is I might move already the frequency up a bit. And if you want to tune this frequency, here's a little tip for you as well. So I'm just moving that by ear, but if we did want to tune that to a particular note, we can add Ableton's tuner here. And then you can see kind of the actual MIDI note or the pitch that I've created, right? So I'm pretty much on a G sharp at the moment. So if you had a particular key in mind, you could obviously use the tuner to find that pitch. I'm not too bothered about that, but that at least will tell us what the tuning of that note is, even though it's showing a C3 here, a D3, sorry, even. So if we pitch that back to a C3, you can see that the MIDI note doesn't really matter. We're fixed in the frequency here, and the tuner's helping us know what that frequency is. And that might be helpful, as I said, once we start getting more music stuff in. But what I want to do is a little bit of automation here. It's a fun one to do. So we're going to go into the envelopes, go back to the operator, and we're going to click on the frequency now. And what we're going to do is turn on our pencil tool, right? And we're going to mess around in here a little bit with like a little bit of a sequence. So let's hit play. Okay, just something like that. So we're kind of taking this note and we're turning it into a bit of a sort of interesting frequency. We might also make this note longer, or what we might do is change the length of this pattern, which will make it sort of loop like a polymeter, which is what I'm thinking here as well. So we'll have this kind of off loop here. So let's try that as well. Nice. And now we can mess around a bit with this tuning if we like as well. I think I'll have it a bit lower, so I'm kind of going to need to redo my automation in a second because I've pitched the frequency down a little bit. Let's maybe have a D. So I need to redo this now, so we'll just clear that. Something like this, right? And the fact that it's looping a little bit different in length, so this can work really well for techno as well, especially hypnotic techno and stuff like that. We now have got this kind of odd loop length, which is giving us a polymeter, and once we get our other elements in, there's going to be a nice rhythm that plays off against. And now what we can do is play around a bit with the different parameters of the oscillator A here. So we could have a different oscillator shape. Let's change the envelope as well. And if we want FM, we can also now bring up oscillator B, and we start to get FM synthesis happening here, which also could be really interesting. So there's lots of possibilities. Now we've got the basics here. We can take it further. By adding that oscillator B, and we can also change our traffic light system over here a little bit. So we could have one of these other different setups, still keeping the FM. So we could do actually sort of something like this, which would be not FM, and then we could add another oscillator. So by using that setup here, we've got two oscillators working like a subtractive synth, and then another oscillator on top, which is working as FM synthesis. So that's a nice sort of basic sound for now. Could also have a pitch envelope on it. That could be interesting. We might come back to that. All right, so we've got our starting point here. Okay, what's next? Let's bring in another MIDI track. And by the way, if you are in the stream with me here, do let us know where you tuned in listening from, and also feel free to add any comments there if you have any questions about Ableton Live, progressive house from the 90s, electronic music, all that good stuff. All right, so now let's go with a drift, I think, as our instrument. As I said, we're going to be working with the stock Ableton stuff. Keep it nice and simple and focused, a bit like it was back in the 90s. And we could do either a pattern sort of by programming it in, or we could add a sequencer here. So maybe we'll start with something that I program in, and we'll see what that's like, and then we might switch it up. Let's see. So I want something kind of like a bit kind of rolling, sometimes on the beat. So some of these hits here landing on the beat, here and here, which gives us a little bit of variation between syncopation and non-syncopated. And we've got a bit of different note lengths in here, so made the grid a bit smaller. So we've got 16ths and 30 here. Let's get some velocity into this. Let's duplicate that as well. Have a little bit of a difference in the second bar. Let's try this on the D. Which matches the note that we have currently here, right? And now let's work on our drift. Just changing that slightly to a little bit of a different rhythm. Okay, carrying on with the drift. See if we can use the pitch envelope a little bit. Just have a little bit of bend on the notes. There we go, it's starting to come to shape. And don't sleep on drift, ladies and gents. Like, drift is a really capable synth in Ableton, and we're kind of doing 90s prog house here, so we're trying to keep it kind of simple. You know, there's all these fancy plugins we could use, but drift, analog and operator, we've just got both of the operator and drift here. They're very, very capable sounding synths, so they can do everything you really want them to do without too much trouble at all. Maybe have a little bit of modulation on this. Back to our operator. Let's get some movement into this. So let's maybe have an LFO from the audio effects. And again, don't be shy. If you've got any questions, do fire them into the chats. 90s prog house, electronic music, Ableton Live, all those good things. Hopefully, by the way, my microphone level is good and the music level is good. Do let me know if there's any issues there. So we're just sweeping the filter frequency a little bit, which gives us a nice bit of movement. Could also pitch that down a bit further. Okay, just checking in with the chat. New comment popped up. Belto Falwedfish. Okay, hopefully I did all good with that pronunciation. All good, Heath, enjoying this. First time catching you live. Nice one. Thanks for joining into the stream. Glad you're enjoying it. Okay, let's work on this operator still, this sequence. Maybe a bit more FM perhaps. Now we're talking. So I'm just playing around with the operator here, and we chose this interesting traffic light before. So what this signifies is all these different traffic lights here are changing the configuration of the 4 oscillators we can play with an operator. And when you load up operator in its default state, we have the traffic light all vertical, and that means it's straight away an FM synthesis is going to happen. As soon as you turn up the level of B, C, or D, they all start modulating. There's a thing called an operator and a carrier, and they start to modulate. One oscillator modulates the other. So as you work through these different traffic lights, you can flip kind of how the oscillators behave. And the one I chose was this one, which is like a T upside down. And that means that the first 2 oscillators are subtractive. They're kind of like a sound together. And then the purple oscillator C is then actually modulating those 2, which is giving us lots to play with here. As I said, don't sleep on operator because it's a really powerful synth. Most people look at the interface and think, oh no, I'm not going there. Okay, so we've got a nice kind of little simple idea going with a drift bass line. And this kind of operator sequence rolling along with it. And we don't need too much. We can build around that and keep building around that, right? It's a great sort of starting point. Let's maybe crunch this up a little bit. I just want to balance this raw out so that it's not crazy louder, even though that's attractive. When I A-B it, I turn it on and off. I'm trying to stay with the same sort of volume that it was before I added it, but just giving it the new character. Okay, so let's have a bit more drums to get things rolling. So let's get in a bit of a hi-hat or something here. And let's stick maybe with the 909, I think, as the flavor. Again, going back to the 90s, we didn't have all the samples and all the different drum kits and things we have now. So let's maybe see what we've got in the locker here. We used a PML kick before, so why not stick with these guys? Maybe something like this, more kind of drier sounding hi-hat. A little try with that. See what it sounds like. And maybe what we'll do is we'll actually change what we're going to do down here. So let's start with a drum rack instead on here. So we'll just clear that for a second. Drop a drum rack in there. All right, now we can go back to 909 PML. And this one here, let's get that in the drum rack. And let's have this more splashy one as well, and then we can have a little bit of a conversation between those two. So I'm going to work quite a bit on grooves again today, because actually, you know, grooves are going to be important to, again, bring this to life, because like I kind of explained earlier on today, you know, 90s progressive house, it's quite a minimal genre. So the more we kind of get out of it is to do with building good grooves and getting everything to play around with each other, have a nice conversation. It's not about chord progressions and loads of music theory and counter melodies and melodies. It's about sort of, you know, a bit of sampling, good grooves, and nice. They were generally long tracks, 8, 9, 10 minutes, big builds, really great for DJing. You know, that's the sort of style of track we're building a bit here. Again, our operator can keep giving us So some of these things I'm messing around with here. They could be nice to have a little bit of an LFO on here for a little bit more movement. So sometimes when you're cooking like this, 4 tracks sounds like it's a fuller track, right? This is the sort of kind of secret that the pros are doing in the background. It's not like keep stacking loops and loops and tracks and tracks. It's kind of like working often with real simple little instruments and effects, and just kind of working with those and feeling out what they're capable of and what they can do, and putting LFOs and getting some movement going. We have 4 tracks, but we've got a story that I can kind of listen to for quite some time. Okay, let's maybe have a clap or a snare in here. Let's do a bit of housekeeping as well. We're just going to label this our hi-hat. Not sure if it snare or clap. What do you reckon, folks? I think clap. Something like this one again speaks to me. Clap, nice one. Thank you for helping me out there. Good call. I think clap as well. Sometimes, you know, it's interesting. Sometimes we're in the mood for a snare, sometimes a clap, but I think a nice soft clap like this can work well. Again, I'm looking for a little conversation between the hi-hat and this clap. Try and make it a little bit unique. Let's also think back to the time when this was being made, the 90s prog house. Let's get a groove happening here as well. Let's bring in a groove. Let's sort of mess around with that. Maybe have it on the hi-hats, things like that. A little bit of swing going on. So let's maybe go into MPC land and have something like this, the MPCs. Let's open up the groove pool. We'll just drag in a few. So I don't want massively swung, just a little bit swung. So let's have 54, 57. They're going to be off straight, but not too far off straight. So which one did I overlap there? 57's in. Let's put the 54 in, and then let's have a couple of the Logic ones as well. Similarly, we're going to stick with 16ths. Again, fairly straight, 56, maybe 59, just to see. And then let's put that on the hi-hat. Sorry, hi-hat over here. So let's add that to that, see what that sounds like. Okay, so what's confusing me here, I need to fix this a little bit, is my drift is my bass, and it's in yellow, which kind of is what I normally use for hi-hats. So I'm just going to fix that so I keep looking at the right track. So we've got our MPC in here. Yeah, so I think the 56 Logic just gives it a little bit of groove here, and we can kind of listen to it here by kind of taking away, that's it straight. So it's about 20%. It just adds a little bit of, again, interest to it. So let's have 20% of the 56 as our swing, and maybe on our clap as well. I think so. And let's also kind of make the bass a bit more muted for a moment. And then what we might do is create another little bass note to go with that. So let's try that. Let's bring in a new MIDI track. And let's just again do a bit of housekeeping here. This is our operator, but it's our sequence. So sequence operator. So we know what's what. Again, I'm just going to color that up so I know what's going on. Nice. And this is the clap. Okay, so we'll give that some colors as well that make sense to me. So I know what's going on here. And we can get rid of these audio tracks for now. We can add some if we need some. So let's get back into here. Let's try maybe another little bass note, maybe. So what I'm doing is checking its conversation first with what we've got here. So where do they overlap? So that could be a place to put it where it doesn't overlap. And let's mess around maybe with some automation here. We'll also bring it down a little bit. Okay. Okay, let's make this note longer. So I don't probably want it to play as frequently as it's going to play right now. So let's mess around with that a little bit as well. Let's make this clip longer. Actually, we'll go back. Let's duplicate it. And then what we could do is maybe mute that first one and just have it coming in every second bar. So it's in there. Let's give it a little bit of processing as well. Okay, now for a bit of an open hi-hat type action. Back to our trusty 909 kit that we're kind of working with today. Maybe we don't know. Oh, yes, we do. Might change this, but let's see what it sounds like. Go back on that for a second. And maybe not randomization, let's do it a little bit differently. Let's go back here. Let's make our own kind of manual pattern here of the velocity on these open hi-hats. So let's reset them a bit. One step too far. Now, there we go. So we've got 4 bars here, great. Let's do this. Put these up here, all of the max, and then we're just going to kind of create our own little bit of a pattern here of velocity changes. Also want to get that swing on there, which we have. Little favorite trick that I like to do here. Pop a little bit of a copy of the same hi-hat an octave lower for a little nice kind of feature, particularly at the end of a turnaround of a phrase. You can also separate it. All right, so now for something like a bit of a lush pad to go into here. So we've got our nice groove rolling, 909s. Got our drift bass, got our sequence. Keep this one out for now. So earlier we ended up in D, but we haven't really even chosen a scale here as we've gone along. We've just kind of turned this operator. So if you're just joining the stream now, we kind of started a little bit in here's where the magic's happening, particularly in this track here where we're using operator. We've just got this kind of C3 note that's looping in a polymeter. It's not looping in an even 2 beats. It's looping inside of that. And the magic is that it's oscillator A is in fixed frequency, and we're using that with a bit of modulation in here to kind of make this interesting little polymetric sequence. And then we FM'd it and added some effects, which is kind of giving us this cool piece that's bubbling away here. But anyway, that's kind of in D. So it ended up in D and the bass is in D. So let's say we go D minor, and then maybe here we go for a D again. Now we're going to bring in, let's say wavetable. Maybe that's cheat. I'm not sure if wavetable was around in the 90s, wavetable synthesis already, but maybe someone can answer that in the chat if you know the answer to that. I'm not sure myself. So with the wavetable, instead of drawing the note all the way across and make it legato, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the release of the amp envelope to do that. So that kind of gives us the same thing. We get a note and another note that plays, but by using a long release on the amp envelope, we kind of end up with a sustained kind of synth, right? And now what we're going to do is get this wavetable a bit more interesting. So let's put already an LFO on the movement of the wavetable. So let's map that to an LFO. Let's use LFO1 and let's put it like in the 50% area. And then we're going to change the wavetable away from the basic shapes. You get the idea. It's going to modulate around just to give us a feel of what that's going to sound like. Let's detune this a little bit. So this is nice, this movement here. You can have it a little bit quicker if you want. Just playing around with what it sounds like if it's pitched down. I think we'll leave it where it is now. Let's carry on with the wavetable and develop it a bit more. Let's get this filter frequency also modulating with an LFO. Let's have a square wave though. Let's make it synced. So that pad's very full, it's taken up a lot of space. So let's work on so let's also maybe try pitching these up. Prefer where they were. Let's try the other way around here. And I think with this long sustained kind of pad that's bubbling down the back, and I've EQ'd it, and I've kind of, what I did was I pitched up the sequence higher and brought it back to where I like the notes, but I'm getting separation on them, right? So I can hear with my ear, we were getting a bit crowded. Everything was kind of clambering for space. So now we're kind of getting a bit of that space back, right? So we're trying to fit our musical things together. So this wavetable, it's kind of crying out to me that it needs a sidechain as well. It'd be nice to get it to pump a bit to the actual track, which will help it as well get more movement, and it will duck and pump. So let's sidechain that to our nice 909 kick. We're going to make it quite a strong sidechain. Without the sidechain, so you can hear it, it's very messy. Just brings it into control a bit more. If you don't want so much pump, just back it off a bit. Make it very subtle. So that it doesn't pump at all. That's up to you, but here I wanted it kind of a bit more aggressive. Can also change the RMS. Want it a little bit more musical, the compression, that it's not just grabbing the peaks. It's working more in the average volume of the sound. I stopped on the first oscillator, let's try some others. It's quite nice. Let's also maybe try the other LFO on the oscillator position, our square wave. No. So now what I'm doing here, that's going to be the next thing. We're going to absolutely do what I'm doing here. So we're not going to use an envelope. We're going to go straight into a bit of automation here. By the way, if you are on the stream with me, do feel free to say hello. Don't be shy in the chat. Let us know where you're listening to the stream from. And of course, if you've got any questions about Ableton Live, electronic music, deep progressive house, go for it. Drop it in the chat. 90s progressive house, should I say. Okay, so I've got a plan for this closed hi-hat, just listening there, so let's put in a new clip here. So now we've got two different hi-hat patterns. Let's make sure we know that. So let's say this is going to be pattern 1, where it's just an offbeat. And pattern 2 now is a fast 16th hi-hat pattern. This gives us a nice little bit of change on the groove. Okay, so now with the wavetable, let's make this kind of a little bit more interesting as well. So we've got one bar that looks like it does so far. Let's duplicate that. And then let's say that over the length of this time, I'm going to show you a cool little trick here, which again is something that, you know, no doubt will come in handy. Just checking the chat. Alan Sykes, hey, watching from South Wales, UK. Just starting my production journey this month using Ableton Live 12. Great to pick up some live tips. Thank you. Nice one, Alan. And thanks for tuning in. And I hope it's a sunny day in South Wales. I hope everyone's enjoying the last Sunday of September, right? Bloody hell, where'd that go? So what we're going to do is I'm going to sweep the filter of the wavetable up and down, but let's make it a really big, long envelope. So sometimes when we're looking here, we've just got 2 bars and we've got our MIDI notes of the wavetable and this pad sound. But what I want to do is not just have an envelope of the filter sweeping across just that length of time, just these 2 bars. So what we're going to do is unlink down here. And this is a real game changer again for spicing up your sounds a bit. So we're going to unlink the envelope. That means that the envelope of the automation is independent of the notes, right? So what we could do now is you come down the bottom here. Now we've got the start and end and loop length of the unlinked section. And we're going to go to length and we're going to make this like, could be 16 bars if we like. So we're going to have over 16 bars, the filter sweep, right? So we're going to have 640. We're going to open it right up. Let's try that to start with. And we might actually even close it down further. So it's going to sweep its way up over time, over 16 bars. And what we could do is make it sweep back down to join the dots back up over here at some point. So we dramatically bring it back down as well. So we sort of sweep up, sweep down, up to you what you do here. But unlinking it is a real game changer for kind of treating your automation separate from the notes. They're just looping around in a couple of bars here. And if we just traditionally kept it unlinked, we would be restricted to 2 bars worth of automation, whereas here we're able to stretch that right out, make a lovely long sweep. I'm just creating a second clip here as well on my kind of sequence. So we've now got a variation here. On the sequence. A little bit of polishing of the sounds, a little bit of control. I do like this closed hi-hat pitch down a bit, so and everything seems to play ball together. They all seem to play together quite nicely, so we've got good potential here to sort of vary things up with what we've got, like the core of the track here in an hour and 10 minutes. Try a bit of spectral resonator on this track as well, could be interesting. Another little layer of sort of texture on it. Just trying out the different sequences I've created. I'm also thinking with this drift, let's try something with that, just out of interest, because I kind of programmed the pattern earlier. That's what we have here. But let's see just what it's like. The same synth that I've built as well, the same patch. So this is all work we did earlier. Same synths, but let's try a little bit with a sequencer instead, just see what that sounds like for something to try out. So we're going to pop into the Packs Ableton Live 12 suite, the SQ sequencer. Let's drop that in, and let's say we just turn off the other patch for a moment and see what we can come up with if we sequence it. Yeah, I think I'm going to stick with what I had. Just wanted to have a quick mess in there because I think what we have is fine. But we could have started. That was one of the ideas I had at the beginning. But we have this kind of sort of trance-ish rhythmic bass, and that will do fine for now. All right, so maybe what we should do, let's sort of bring this over to the arrangement view from the session. Let's drop it in here. Let's sort of see about what we've got in terms of starting to think about like different scenes and little bits of arrangements and stuff here. If we can start building a little bit of a kind of, yeah, bit of a break, all those kind of good things. So we can definitely change our hi-hat patterns. Likewise, we can change our sequencer patterns as well. So we've got a couple of options there. And let's see if I move these further over. So we got about 16 bars, I think. Yeah, so 8 bars would be there. So what we could actually do is grab all of these, bring them down to 8, duplicate that. Oh, lost my selection of them all. Let's duplicate that over, and let's say we sort of work on a bit of a breakdown over here. It's not a mental breakdown, by the way. Purely a song breakdown. Okay, so this guy, maybe we start with that as well. Comes in later. And sequencer wavetable. Okay, so maybe no sequence here, and maybe not even there yet. Let's see. Okay. So that would be kind of potentially an intro-ish or verse 1. Let's just build up the other side of this drop a little bit. Little fast arrangement here, and then I want to add something into here as well. And what I'm thinking to do with this pad loop as well is let's spread it out a bit because it's got a nice long tail to it, so it probably doesn't need to play all the time either. We could also even reverse that flight order. Here might be nice to start already with that. Do that again. So just filling in some gaps here, doing a quick little sketch of an arrangement, but I do have something I want to add here. But it's quick. You can see kind of how we can move from what we had here, which was a nice kind of core idea, get it into a bit of a shape here between sort of builds and drops and different sections already, and kind of map out some ideas about how we're going to take things in and out. Like I've just created new little fills and pieces out of what I have, so the pad just doesn't keep playing, and the hi-hats switch in and out of the different sequences, change in and out, and the energy goes up and down. Let's say where we are somewhere like, where have we got a busy-ish section, almost a peak, where we had it in the session view almost here. For sure at some point all of this can play together, like it can come back to one of these scenes, right, which would be effectively all of that can happen at some point, maybe there. So let's bring in a bit of a vocal kind of thing as the last bit to add to this, our 90s kind of progressive house track. So I sort of had bookmarked a bit of a idea of something. Let's have a listen to this maybe. I think what we'll do is we'll just bring it straight in so that we can kind of hear it easier and play around a bit with the... I know what happened there. I actually split it, I think, into a vocal already. Okay, it's down here. Here we go. Okay.
We'll all be deeply involved. It must be unanimous.
Then I'll still want one question asked to be satisfied. Why? Not a list of possible numbers. Simple
Yeah, that would be a cool little chop that I've got kind of there. But let's see if we've got a little section that we can kind of loop underneath here.
What is it? Well, I discovered it. What is it? Frightened, faint-hearted, I've been warning men not to push any further, not to learn any more, not to hope, grow, and exceed themselves. All our existence through frightened and faint-hearted have been warning men not to push any further, not to learn any more, not to hope, grow, and exceed themselves. Reached. Don't believe we can stop. I don't believe we're meant to. All of mission hadn't reached. That's like saying you wish that you still operated with scalpels and sewed your patients up with catgut like your great. Sewed your patients up with.
So I'm just laughing at what's being said here.
In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as because Dr. McCoy is right in pointing out the enormous danger potential in any as fantastically I must Dr. McCoy is right. Enormous contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. But I must point out that the possibilities, the potential, in pointing out the enormous danger potential.
Maybe here.
Any contact with life and intelligence.
I'm just doing this bit rough.
Fantastically
Obviously,
advanced
spend a bit more time
but
on
I
this,
must point
picking, like normally if I'm going to use something like this, I'm going to spend a bit more time finding little sections, chopping it up and looking for little things that I would use just every now and then as little chops, and then longer phrases. Maybe if you'd like to see a part 2 of this, then I can sort of go through that and work on that and show you, you know, more detail on that side, what I would exactly do on that to make this like really the sort of vocals I want to use. But I'm just quickly looking for a section that kind of could work.
in pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. But I must point out that the possibilities, the potential for knowledge and advancement is equally great.
Okay, so maybe, can I cut it
Pointing out
off?
the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. But I must point out that the possibilities, the potential, danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. The enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this.
Yeah, I kind of like, really like this point, which is what I'm,
In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this.
but there's plenty of good stuff in there to extract. So let's walk our way through a little bit what we've got so far.
contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this.
Okay, so let's put my favorite little vocal chain that I built earlier this year onto that. So this little voice section that I've cut out from there just to use for now. No warping on at this point. We could warp it, drop it into Complex Pro. Okay, so what was I looking for? Vocal chain. Okay.
In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence. In pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence.
Nice. So walk you through this little rack. I just built this rack earlier this year to put over vocals and voices, and we've got lots of options here. Don't have to use them all, but there's simply pretty much mostly Ableton devices. There's utilities, auto shift if we need to repitch it. This is just a speech, so we don't need to do that. EQ to clean it up. There's a de-esser here, compressor if we need to get rid of any S's. And then we've got this Fresh Air. This is a free plugin, by the way. I can really recommend it if you haven't got it. Good one to add to your toolkit. It's just really nice for giving a little bit of presence to things like the mid and the highs. On this, it didn't really do a lot, but on some voices and vocals, that's an absolute brilliant plugin. Then I've got things like Saturator if I wanted to dirty it up, or Raw, give it some distortion and crunch. Peak Compressor if I want to, again, catch any peaks. An RMS compressor if I want to work more on the root mean squared, the average sort of loudness of the sound, and a glue compressor here, which I did add a little bit of glue just to catch any of these peaks. I mean, if we look here at the waveform itself, we can see that we're going to have quiet versus louds. So compression's a good idea just to level this out a little bit more so that it's a little bit more even across. Don't have to crush it or squash it, but just even that out a little bit. And then I've built this parallel rack here, which is a nice way to, instead of having everything after all this dry kind of effects here, we've got the dry passing through, but we've added in parallel things like chorus and reverb and echoes, so we can kind of control those a bit more in a different way, just to having them, as I said, over the dry signal. So I hope that makes sense.
In pointing out the enormous danger in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. Pointing out the enormous danger potential, the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. Dr. McCoy is right in pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. pointing out the enormous danger potential.
Maybe. Thumbs up, thumbs down, I'm not sure. Just ideas for now. There's plenty to work with there, that's the good thing.
Dr. McCoy is right in pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life intelligence as drastically advanced as this. Pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life intelligence as drastically advanced as this.
Okay, let's see if we can make a nice little percussion loop to go with this so we can have a little bit more in the groove side of things to work with as well. Feel free, by the way, just looking at the chat, it's a bit quiet at the moment, but if you are on the stream with me, do feel free to say hello, where you're tuned in and listening from. And of course, if you have any questions about electronic music, Ableton Live 12, 90s progressive house, you want to let me know any favorite tracks, anything's inspiring you at the moment, feel free to drop it in there. So percussion, we've been working with 909 so far as our drums. I'm just gonna have a look to see what I have there. Probably pretty basic, I would guess. Not a great amount of sort of percussion. So I think what we're gonna do is either grab another sort of drum rack, maybe in period, or we might just mix some percussion loops up and build our own percussion loop from that. Could be an idea, I think. So I could show you a few different ways to maybe go about it. What we might do, maybe we'll be creative and we'll haven't used any audio really apart from the vocal here. So maybe we'll have some audio. We'll say show take lanes and we'll open that up. It's the other way around. Insert a take lane here, and then let's pop into somewhere like sample libraries, and we're going to look for percussion, and we're going to look for a loop, or loops, we should say. Yeah, more like this. Great, so let's have that down in the take lane here. And let's add some more. Okay, so let's keep going. Not really checking how different these are at the moment, but I'm sure they're sounding different enough. And I was looking for more this sort of organic-y type percussion sound. And then what we're going to do is we've got a lot of, get all these in here like so. And what have we got? How many bar? We've got 1 bar basically. Okay, so let's stretch that out to say 4. Bring that in. And what we're going to do here is just build a little groove using these percussion loops to fit in around what we've got, so we can have a little bit, again, some little variation to there. I don't want to fill this up with much more. As I said, if you listen to a track by Lauren Garnier called Crispy Bacon, I'll put it in the chat. It's a great reference track for this kind of era and this kind of music. Maybe some of you are familiar with it. Also, you could look up orbital Halicon on and on. Amazing tracks. I put them in the chat there. Check those ones out for a bit of a reference. But all of those, they're very minimal. They're not too busy. They go for 9, 10 minutes, 8 minutes. Amazing tracks to DJ. And the thing would be, when I start arranging it, it will be that I will add some more details that are little kind of fills. And if you listen to Crispy Bacon, there's lots of like clap rolls and things like that. So we just give ourselves a little bit more drums to work with, but there's not many more things to add here musically. Also the vocals, I would go through and find some little chops. Might even have a little, actually we could probably do that as well. So let's see how we get on here, and then we could maybe do a little vocal chop sequence as well. So let's strip this down a bit. And turn on our pencil tool, do a little bit of drawing. Could just be as simple as that. Nice. Don't need much more than that, really. That's what I was kind of looking for, something like that. So I like the position of the beat. Now I'm trying out the different sounds. Okay, this one works good. Maybe. But I don't want to turn it into a Latin track. But I do like that kind of position. So we could use something else in that same beat. So you can have a lot of fun in here and get really creative. Right, so that was kind of fun, and that's a way to use lots of audio loops you might have kicking around that you're collecting dust with them, pop them into something like a take lanes of an audio track, and then you can build really nice kind of fast little loops out of them. That, as I said, once you start doing this as well, you can, all of these are their own little clips that we can play around with all of the normal parameters, reverse, pitch them up, pitch them down. We can add fades if we wish, all of that good stuff. So the rest of this, I don't really need anymore, all those take lanes. I just wanted that. So I'm going to consolidate that. And I'm going to get rid of all of those. That was a great exercise just to get ourselves a nice little custom perk loop. And we are going to maybe have that looping through, but that's to be decided. Like, you know, it might just bring it in and out here and there, or it might, where we have a peak section like this, play all the way through like so. But good potential there. So I spoke about maybe a little vocal chop sequence idea as well. Probably got time just to have a little experiment with that. So what I would do also with this is create versions of it, because at one point I like it. That's good. That's the main one for sure. So that's one. But I also did in the very beginning strip it right back to almost just one of these hits, right? So I think that would also work quite well. So we can make another version that we could use in the track. That's just a few more minimized. Just got to figure out which hit it is. Yeah, so now we've got ourselves slightly minimized version of that. Great as well. We'll put that in the bank. That could be used somewhere else in the track where we just want to bring that in every 4 bars or every 8 bars. So I hope I'm helping you here kind of see the way I think about things, in the sense that I'm putting in the bank here ways to make variations of sections. We've already jumped into a bit of an arrangement here, and I'm now building out pieces that I can kind of use elsewhere in the build up and breakdown of the track. And that's something I notice with a lot of artists and producers I work with, particularly people that are new to electronic music. They're not really used to building what we call form in music, which is where we have an A and a B section, or an A, B, C, and D, and we can lay those out into being an arrangement. If you've just got an A, that's one loop. That's why a lot of people get stuck in a loop and can't finish their songs or finish their tracks, because they don't really have any where to go from there. They haven't thought about, how do I build that up to that loop or break that loop down? And the more, let's say, options or understanding of that, the easier it's going to be for you to build that tension and release and break things up and down. So I'm thinking about, well, it's very easy to just copy and paste this loop that I made a moment ago everywhere, but I'm thinking about, well, hang on a second, what about if I reduce it down? What about if I build it up? I could add a delay to that, or processing or effects, and make it go crazy, chaos. So it's about thinking about things like that. What can you do with what you have, and think about having variations and changes so that it's going to make your life a lot easier. So I mentioned somewhere in here, maybe let's have a little play, and we're going to sign off for today. I think we've got a really nice platform to work with. So we could have this down in here, and we could put a sequencer in front, or we could even just say a new MIDI clip. Let's start maybe with a 16th note on every note. Something like that, just very rough. change the plan a bit here.
There is no materials.
So just getting a little bit of a sequence idea going down here. Just playing around really. Yeah, not sold on currently on the sequence that I had here, which I took from a straight note and then arpeggiated it. There's a few ways you could do this. The idea before was I started with C1 down here, and then I kind of like turned it into an arpeggio. Another way you can kind of draw in a sequence here would be to go over here actually to something like seed, and then you can literally turn on your pencil and you could, you know, draw your own little sequence in here. Or you can hit generate. Keep what you like, remove what you don't like. That's kind of messing around with like randomizing or generating this sequence. So there's a lot of ways we could plan it out, we can program it out, we can play the chops, but it could be interesting. We could have our own little vocal chop sequence from that idea. But for now, I'm going to scrap that. Just was messing around in there. But yeah, it's a quick little look at how you might come up with something like that. But for now, it's just one step too far. And I don't actually like the... I love the tone of it as a spoken vocal or spoken expression in the track, but I don't really see it as a necessary chop. I'd rather have a female vocal or something with a different pitch if I'm going to do that, rather than this particular speech. So a little bit of housekeeping, a little playthrough, and a little bit of a recap, and then we're going to wrap things up for today. So last little bit of question time. If you have any questions, do drop them in the chat. 90s Prog House, Ableton Live 12, electronic music, all of those good things. Happy to answer your questions in the chat there. So looking here at what we've got, how did we start? Well, we just plugged in a nice meaty 909 kick drum that got us rolling. We sort of tried to stay in period today. We thought, let's keep it simple. Let's imagine ourselves being in the 90s and back in the days when it's Sasha and Orbital and Digweed, and those guys are the DJs, and the music's coming through from Lauren Garnier and Orbital and people like that, that I've dropped a couple of their tracks in the chat. Sven Vath as well also had some great tracks from around this time. So 909 kick drum. Then we went to Drift. Actually, we didn't. We went to the Operator, and we kind of, not this one, right down here. And we came up with this kind of really cool little sequence, which is a note. That's all it is. And then the magic happens in the envelopes where we've got the Operator, and we've got somewhere in here, out of all of this stuff, let me just make sure we're on the right place. Maybe we'll do it back over here. It might be a little bit easier. Jump into here so we can see it. There it is, Operator. And we've got this little frequency mapped in here, which gives us this really nice kind of great technique, by the way, to use for hypnotic techno and lots of like faster techno genres that are happening now, but we've used it to kind of come up with this cool little sequence, and that's Operator. And then we took Operator a little bit further. We've added 2 oscillators in, and we've got the tree of the T turned upside down, which gives us subtractive and FM together. I do explain that earlier in the video, so if you missed that, go back and check that out. But that kind of was a pretty key sound here. Then a drift bass line, all made from zero, all made from scratch. We're just showing you what stock devices and Ableton can do. So a nice drift bass line. I did program the pattern here. And this Operator, single note, but very cool little modulated part. And there's a 1 and a 2 clip. I've made a later version of it. Then I've got this little wobble bass. It's another little Operator with a single note that actually, again, has some modulation of the filter frequency in this case here, and it bends it up, so it's got this nice kind of whoop or whomping kind of feel to it. And then drums, 909, closed hi-hats, fasts, offbeats, clap patterns, all that good stuff. And then a wavetable, which may be slightly out of period, not sure on that one, and that has some interesting things going on again as well. The amp envelope being long release means even though the notes are short, it's kind of technically sustaining all the way over the notes. So it ends up being a pad that triggers 2 new different pitches, and lots of good stuff going on there. And then a little bit of a vocal with a chain on it that I've built this year, sounding good. And now a nice little percussion loop, fast one made out of take lanes and different percussion loops. So looking here, this is a rough arrangement of some tension and release, builds and drops. So let's have a little playthrough from the start of what we ended up with. Try going up on the BPM actually. Just gonna give it another run through with the tempo up. quite like it at a faster tempo.
Contact with life intelligence as fantastically advanced.
Yeah, so I'm just tweaking a few things as that goes on, and those are the sort of things that I would tweak now as this arrangement comes together. Automation, things opening, closing, more movement, lots of little FX-y parts that can come from what we've got here, but the core track in a couple of hours, kind of happy with that result. I think it's definitely something that could turn into a cool track to play out and DJ out. I hope you've enjoyed the live stream and you found it beneficial. You've learned some things along the way. It was good to have some of you in the chat since the get-go. Patrick, nice of you to join in. Lenny, Belto Fawatish, Alan Sykes, thanks a lot, guys and girls, and thanks for those comments in the chat there. So I'm going to wrap things up here. For today. You know what to do. It helps the channel an awful lot. Push all those buttons, ding the bell to receive your notifications if you'd like to know when I'm next going live. A couple of times a month is what I do. Generally, they're spread apart, so not week, one week and then straight away the next week. So generally 1 week live stream, then a week off, and then another week live stream. So keep an eye out for that. And as I said, ding the bell so you know when I'm going live. Also put it in the posts, community post section of YouTube. As always, of course, keep on creating, keep having fun, and drop a comment below if there's something you would like to see in a future live stream, a genre, an artist that makes that genre. And I read all the comments and am well and truly up for paying attention to those and making those things happen. So keep on creating. I'll see you all very soon. Alan Sykes, thanks to you as well. Take care, everybody. Peace out, over and out. Ciao, everybody.